Hi, good morning. Mag-upload tayo ng BMW X5 bago. Panoorin po natin.
B-complex and vitamin E gives total nerve care. Neurogen E.
Just super easy to drive. It really doesn't feel too much like a boat. You don't really feel the heft and the weight of the BMW.
Umpisa tayo.
SUV or sedan, you go for a car that can give you tons of ground clearance, tons of practicality, and the ability to battle Manila floods? Or do you go for a sedan that can give you refinement and comfort? But what if I tell you you can get both at the same time? You might say that, oh, we can practically get any other crossover in the world, but no. You have to get something like this. One of the
Tumatawag
first
dito
few
si
cars, if
Jenny.
not the first car to start off
Baka hindi ka
crossover craze.
naka-alarm.
This is the 2024 BMW X5 xDrive30d M Sport, and this is the exact definition of a crossover SUV done properly. I'll give you the basics first. So this is called the G05X5, and this is the latest generation of the BMW X5. Now, compared to its predecessor, it's 3 inches wider, just slightly longer, and a little bit shorter in terms of height. But God, this car is just beautiful, especially in this M Sport trim. Now, starting off with the front, you have a massive kidney grills. And usually I'm not a big fan of these huge kidney grills from BMW, but it works properly given the size of the BMW X5. You also have what they call the iconic glow. So there are lights there by the kidney grills, so especially at night, this looks pretty stunning. These are active grills too, by the way, so they can like shut or open depending on aerodynamics or whatever. Something for your fuel economy. Your lights, of course, these are all LEDs, extremely bright, and being the M Sport version of things, you have an M Sport bumper. So there's a couple of black pieces over there. Come to the side of this vehicle and you can see just how big this car is. Now, it goes up against the likes of the Mercedes-Benz GLE, the ML we've had before. But this is just slightly bigger, it just looks much chunkier. But what I like about it, it's not really trying to be a little bit too muscular nor too sporty. It's just smooth. Everything is just super smooth here on the side. Now for the rims too, being the M Sport variant, you get 21-inch rims. These will definitely affect the ride, which you will see later on in the driving segment. But if you go for the lower variant, the business variant, you're gonna get slightly smaller rims, which should in theory improve your ride. Now speaking of these rims too, they are wrapped in massive tires. I'm talking about massive tires. You get 275 40 21s on the front, and get this, 315 35 21s at the rear. Wow, that's almost supercar level. Huge, aren't they? While we're on the topic of these pretty huge rims, I want you to look inside. So what you have here for the M Sport package are bigger brakes to help you stop this car faster. At the same time, you also get adaptive suspension, adaptive dampening. But don't worry, this isn't air suspension or hydraulic suspension, so there's no chance of leaking in the future. You're about as good as you can get with this type of suspension setup too. Towards the rear of the BMW X5, they still maintain that very classic premium look, but they went a little bit wild with the tail lamp, so these look a little bit sportier compared to the rest of the design elements in this vehicle. Now, also being an M Sport variant, you get a slightly different diffuser by the bottom, and you also get twin exhaust pipes, well, one on each side, and they're both real. Now, my favorite part about the X5 since the first generation is, if you open up this power tailgate, you'll notice that it is a split tailgate. So this bottom half or bottom quarter also folds down separately. And in here, space is just really good. And the shape of it, it's super square, so it's super practical. You want to expand your space even more, you can fold down those rear seats 40, 20, 40. And just to give you a little bit something extra, BMW went the extra mile. So once you lift up this false floor, what you'll notice is it even comes with a strut to hold it up. Yes, like a hood strut, but for this false floor. That is really super cool. Now, how do you close that? You have two options in closing this tailgate. There's a button here for this lower quarter, and there's also a button there for the top 3 quarters. Do you need to press both? No, you simply press the one on top and this will fold up first before closing the main portion of the tailgate. So now let's talk about the powertrain. What lies underneath this boat, this land yacht, is a 3-liter twin-scroll turbocharged diesel engine with 6 cylinders. So talking about inline 6. This is a straight 6 engine, one of the smoothest configurations that you can ever have next to a V8 and a V12, making 282 horsepower and 650 newton meters of torque paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And knowing BMW, that 8-speed must be buttery smooth and crisp at the same time. So what's the fuel economy of this massive thing? It must be horrendous, right? Well, no. You can do it 9.1 kilometers per liter inside the city, and this is with heavy city traffic, talking about EDSA and rush hour. And on the highway, given that it's an Autobahn cruiser, you can do 20.3 kilometers per liter. That is simply amazing. Move inside the interior of the X5 now. First, you check the door thud. And that sounds amazing. So the interior of the X5, for this M Sport, I'm not a big fan of the color scheme, but it really is just the color scheme that I'm not a big fan of, because it's all in black. And if you watch a lot of these videos of mine, you know I really love beige or white or light interiors, which you can get with the lower trim variant. But that aside, it's frankly a beautiful interior. I mean, you have a dual 12.3-inch screen setup, and it has a curved display too, which makes it even better. It makes it look a lot more modern. The quality of it too is very clear, it's very high definition. This center touchscreen even comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And yes, it is also super responsive. Using Waze on this, for example, it's massive, it's super clear, it's as good as it can get. And I will be throwing around that term a lot in this video. Now, being the M Sport variant 2, you get this pretty thick M steering wheel, you get paddle shifters on it. There's a lot of buttons on it, but no, this car does not get adaptive cruise control. So the buttons you have here is only for regular cruise control as well as your speed limiter. But no worries, even though you don't have adaptive cruise control, you do get lane departure warning and lane keeping assist with the X5. Now for the other parts of this interior, you have like this exposed wood looking thing. It's not bad, it's just maybe they could have used something else, because there's a lot of like blotches on it, perhaps because it is probably real wood, so they can't really make it that uniform. So yeah, it's kind of a lottery system, I guess. So some of these X5s will have some weirder blotchy patterns, but for this one it gets it a little bit even more weird, right? Okay, so the rest of this too, it just is super well built. I mean, there's no creaks in here, there's no rattles, you can tug on everything. It's so good. The premium materials that they use, it's just superb. You get nice soft touch materials by the center, throughout the dashboard, and even on the side of the doors. Your seats too, they're very comfortable. I'll talk about them a little bit more later on in the driving segment, but all you need to know is that they are power adjustable for both the driver and the passenger side, and you even get adjustments, electric adjustments for your bolsters as well as your lumbar support, again for both sides. But you only do get memory seat functions for the driver's side. You also get ambient lighting in here. You have very cool air vents. They look very diffused. And here by the center, you also get a wireless charging pad. Now, one thing, again, another slight annoyance I have with this newer xDrive30d system though, is there's no physical buttons for your AC system, for your fan speed. So you do have to go into the infotainment screen to adjust your fan speed, which is slightly distracting when you are driving. But that aside, no complaints whatsoever here inside the BMW X5. Oh, one additional thing, you also get a Harman Kardon sound system, and it sounds pretty good too. For the rear seats of the BMW X5, first, again, we check the door thud. That's so good. Okay, first thing I want to show you here at the back is you do get your sunshades over here. So you kind of struggle in putting it up, but once you do get to put them up, there, they work excellently because it really blocks out a lot of the sun. So you'll notice that my legs they don't look like I'm being taken by the Lord already. But anyway, space back here, it's pretty good. Like, there's tons of legroom, tons of headroom, but it's still not as much space as what you would get with its competitor, the Mercedes-Benz GLE or the ML. Nonetheless, this is still more than enough no matter how tall you are. And for your toys, there's so much toys back here. So you get your own thick armrest, it's pretty solid too. You got 2 cup holders over there. You got quad zone climate control, so each one of you here at the back also gets their own. And you have air vents not only here by the center console, but also on the pillars. The only slight issue with that pillar-mounted air vent is if you're seated in front and you blast the fan speed above like 3, it gets pretty audible, which gets just, slightly annoying. So sometimes me as a driver, I would tell the rear passengers, could you just tone down your fan speed just a little bit? Now, the seats too, supremely comfortable really. I mean, thigh support is great. The pre-recline is excellent. Unfortunately, you cannot recline these seats. This is just how they are. And just in case you need to seat a third passenger in here, remember how I said that this car is now 3 inches wider compared to its predecessor? Well, you can really feel that because you get huge footwells, and width in terms of shoulder room is pretty good too. For connectivity, well, you get 2 USB-C ports back here and a 12-volt outlet. While we're on the topic of connectivity, there's these things at the back of these like seats, right? So when you slide that open, there's like an adapter, like a socket for something. So you can probably mount a screen over here from BMW, or you can mount like a coat hanger, and there's even an extra USB-C port over there too. And this is for both of these seats. So now we drive the BMW X5 xDrive30d M Sport, and driving this vehicle is just so rewarding, especially if you do a lot of long distance highway driving, because on the highway at high speeds, this car is just super refined, it's super quiet, it's so comfortable, it's so planted, tracks incredibly well, and it is just super comforting. And the power that you have in here, 650 Newton meters of torque, comes so quickly from down below in your RPM, and even your horsepower, your power at like 280 plus, that still is also more than enough despite the size of this vehicle. Overtaking is a breeze. That 6-cylinder, that straight 6 is just buttery smooth. There's just no delays whatsoever with the transmission. Everything is just crisp. This is about as good as it gets when it comes to highway driving. And this is where you truly understand why European cars feel so different. They were just designed for something completely different. We're not talking about the small city roads of Japan. We're talking about long distance, wide highway driving. This is where these cars truly excel. Now, when you do drive this in the city, it is also pretty comfortable. Now, there is a little bit of a drawback because of how somewhat firm the suspension is to keep you very planted on the highway. Inside the city streets, yeah, you can really feel every single bump and imperfection in the road. It's not painful, but you feel it. Now, is there any other thing that I'm not a big fan of, especially in city driving? Yes, and that would be the auto stop start system, because BMW seems to take their auto stop start thing, their mild hybrid thing, a little bit too seriously. Now, starting from the 2021 model year, thereabouts, BMW decided to remove the auto stop start button, the physical auto stop start button from their car here by the center panel. So what that means is you cannot turn off auto stop start. Now you're going to tell me, why the hell do you even want to turn off auto stop start? Isn't it smooth? Yes, it is pretty smooth, it is pretty seamless, but the issue is it's pretty hot here inside Manila, right? And especially this test unit, it doesn't really get any tint. The compressor of your AC does shut down for a while. It doesn't really take away the cold too much, since the auto stop start system doesn't really kick in for too long, but still it just robs you of those couple of seconds of extra bone-chilling coldness that the compressor could have provided you. Now, that aside, this car is also super easy to drive in the city. Now, this is practically a boat, yes. However, it still is pretty manageable to drive. You have an excellent driving position. You get a very, what they call the commanding driving position. You see everything in front of you. And the steering is also super light. Even if you put this into sport mode, yes, it does tighten up. Yes, it gives you a little bit more reassurance at high speed, but it still isn't heavy. This is just super easy to drive. It really doesn't feel too much like a boat. You don't really feel the heft and the weight of the BMW X5, which brings me on to my next point. Now, I'm not really a big fan of SUVs and crossovers. I think they're this like, I don't know why people love them nowadays. I still prefer sedans. I'm a little bit old school that way. But the BMW X5 being one of the first vehicles, if not the first vehicle, to really pioneer the whole crossover experience, wherein you have the ground clearance and the space and the practicality of a bigger car, yet the handling as well as the refinement and comfort of a sedan, it truly does it extremely well. You know, if all crossovers, if all SUVs felt like this, felt like the X5 in terms of the driving experience, then maybe I would like crossovers even more. And maybe you would too. Now, as you push this over fast bends and corners too, it remains extremely agile, it remains extremely planted. You would expect a lot of body roll again for the size of this vehicle, but even if you leave it in comfort mode, and especially if you put it into sport mode with its adaptive dampers, man, this car is pretty flat. Maybe it's not as flat as driving a Porsche Cayenne, sure, maybe, but is it pretty good? Is it more than enough? Oh yeah, you can have tons of fun with this car. So you can corner this quick, accelerate out of that corner real quick. It's just really like driving a sedan. One more thing I want to commend BMW for, not just for the X5, BMW in general, it's just how ergonomic the seats are. So if you're going for a lot of long distance cruising, if you're taking trips upwards of like 4 hours or so, these are the seats that you want to be sitting on because they're just so good and wrap your body excellently. You're not going to feel fatigued, you're not going to feel sore. This is just perfect. It's not the softest of seats. They're honestly pretty firm, but that's what your body wants. It's like how when you're young, you want a soft, cushy, memory foam bed, but as you age a little bit and you understand your body's pains and aches, you want a firmer bed. It's the same thing with this. The seats are just perfectly firm and massively ergonomic. Since the very start of this video, I'm pretty sure you can tell that I'm going to be giving this car a pretty excellent verdict. And yes, you are absolutely right. This car is just amazing. The BMW X5 is in fact the crossover SUV done correctly. It's as comfortable as a sedan, it's as refined as a sedan, yet it gives you so much ground clearance, and it also enables you to battle the often flooded roads of Metro Manila. There's really almost nothing wrong with this car aside from the slightly stiff ride. But maybe there's one other thing that's slightly wrong about it, and that is the price. Because this BMW X5 xDrive30d M Sport costs 8,890,000 pesos. I mean, is it worth 8.9 million? I would say yes, but do remember that there's another variant, the X5 xDrive30d Business, which shares the exact same powertrain, almost the same amount of equipment minus your huge rims, bigger brakes, adaptive suspension, and dark interior. And that car only costs 5,990,000 pesos. So if you're in the market for an X5, I think that is the car that you should go for, but that doesn't change my verdict for the X5 in general. It simply is an excellent car for practically any person that can afford it.
Thank you for watching.